Hey, it's Miss Robinson. Today we're going to be working with graphing and variables. You're going to be able to accurately set up a graph and understand when to use a bar graph and when to use a line graph. And then also you're going to be able to identify what an independent variable is, a dependent variable, and a controlled variable. Remember, you're taking notes in your interactive notebook, the spiral bound notebook. Your page numbers are going to vary because of different penmanship sizes, and if you continue notes on a different page or you continue them on the same page. But remember to make sure you update your table of contents, and this will be labeled as graphing and variable video notes. You do not have to write word for word. You can write down the most important detailed information on there, but it is up to you to make sure that you got everything that you need to have for your test or your quiz. Okay. So when we're talking about setting up a graph, we're going to be talking about a bar graph. Okay. So it is going to be used to show data that is not continuous. Okay. So for example, if we wanted to, this could be about rainfall and during the different months of the year: January, February, March, April, May, rainfall data. Okay. So it's not something that is connecting together, but it's comparing that particular data. All right. So it's comparing that data. Okay. And it also helps to track changes over time. Okay. So that's an example of what a bar graph could possibly be. So a line graph. So a line graph, if we're going to be using, is for continuous data. Okay. And that is for maybe if we're looking at a trend, if we're having, so how many times I've said this during this presentation. We're going to record that time, and we cannot connect all of that, and we're going to connect all that data and make it a line graph. Okay. All right. So it's showing trends over time. So an independent variable, all right, so is what is being tested and what has been changed. So if we set up an experiment where I said the amount of time that you spent studying and had some kind of relation to the score that you got, okay? So the time you spent studying is the independent variable, okay? You could spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours compared to someone that spent 4 hours studying. And so that is what has changed. And that is what I'm studying. So let's think about the dependent variable. A dependent variable is what is being observed, what is being measured. Okay. So what's being measured? So it's the score that you got. The score that you got is what's being measured. Okay. So if you spent 5 hours studying and you got a 95, and then someone spent 5 minutes studying and got a 55, that is that measurable data. Okay. So the score I got is dependent on the time that I took in order to study. Okay. So that would be the independent and the dependent variables. Okay, so when you think of an experiment, there's going to be stuff that I will be able to control. Okay, so what I will be able to control, all right, and things that could change but don't. Everything is kept constant. Okay, so it's the time you spend studying is independent, and we know that the score you got is dependent. So that controlled variable would be the environment that you're studying. If you're studying at your desk, if you have no cell phone, no music playing, no TV, that's that control. So you're taking away other variables because we don't want to add those, because if we start adding other variables, I don't know which one was why your test grade was really good. Okay. And so that control is stuff that we could keep constant. So maybe it's the type of pencil that you use, or the desk, or the temperature in the room of the house, or in the classroom that you were studying in. That gets picky, but those are also controlled variables. Okay. So with all those components, we are going to make a graph. Okay. That's how you're going to build your graph. So I'm going to tell you a little secret. Okay. Just a little secret. Use a ruler. Okay, you want to use a ruler in order to make this graph. Okay, so I want to use a ruler. You use a ruler. Don't freehand it. Okay, so I sort of set up this graph, and I would like for you to draw this because you're going to have an activity later in order to make sure that you set up your graph properly. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have your X and your Y, so that you have plenty of room in between each. Let's see, plenty of room in between each line that's evenly spaced out. And sorry for my lines; I know they're a little crooked. So I want to have my numbers also equal as well on the graph. So my dependent goes on the y-axis, okay, and my independent is on the x-axis, okay? So I have an overall title right here. Try to do a little star. And so each of these axes need a title, okay? So we have independent variable here, your dependent variable. You're not going to just write dependent and independent as your title. You're going to have a title that corresponds to that data that you gathered, okay? So I have labeled my points. You're going to label your points as well. Sorry for that noise. You're going to also label the points that you have. And then you're going to be able to make the graph filled with this with that data that's equally spaced out, okay? So for example, we have temperatures in New York City. So we have our X and our Y axis. So you see it doesn't say just dependent independent variable. So we have our independent here and our dependent variable here. So our independent variable is what we said, the example I gave you for the studying. So we have the days of the week, first, second, third, fourth, fifth day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And we have our degrees in Fahrenheit. That degree in Fahrenheit depends on that day of the week, and you can see where the temperatures fluctuate. So on the first day that we were in New York, the temperature was roughly about 35 degrees. So you also have these measured increments, and they're measured evenly. We don't want to put all these numbers all the way to 60. We want to have it spaced out evenly. So we went by 20, 40, 60. On your independent variable line, you wanted to make sure it's accurate with your data. So we want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because we measured 5 days out the week, and we know what temperature we're measuring with. So that first day we said was 35, and here's that 30 is halfway between that mark. The second day, we measured it, and it was at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That third day we were in New York, roughly, let's say, about 53. And then on our fourth day, and that Thursday we were there, it dropped all the way down to 32 degrees. And then our last day, it finally was pretty, and it went up to 60 degrees. Okay, you see how everything is spaced out. We have our title, our thorough title based on our data because it says temperatures in New York City. Our temperature is in degree Fahrenheit. We were in New York City for 5 days. So I want you all to write a question. You don't have to do one or two. You don't have to do two, but you can do one about something you didn't understand, or write a question that you would expect to see on a test or a quiz that you're going to take now. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be right at the front or walking around. All right. Thanks.